Hello. Smoke Eater is here. Roger's here. Hank's here. Hank, you're in the show today. You have been warned. Eugene is here. Formerly Locust, if memory serves. Lone, rather, formerly Lone. Webb Bixby in the house. Chuck Joyner. Randy. Other people. I know. Yeah, okay. Everybody's making fun because I'm dressed up. It is said that you should dress for the job you want. If Disneyland ever opens again, I want to drive the monorail. That is a monorail pin from Disneyland. That is actually a monorail tie, also from Disneyland. It was a gift, and the best I actually had because I've got two more in two different colors as well. So call me the Vest King. Thanks everybody for being here. Why don't we dive in? We'll dive in, and then we'll do the chat room thing. After. Boy, that's just catching the light just right, isn't it? Ah, well. All right. So dressed up. It's like, here's the thing really quickly. Basically, I enjoyed dressing up as a 17th century dandy or 18th century dandy last week. And I thought, gee, why can't you dress up all the time? I have very few costumes. So this is not a costume, though. This is actually, I wanted to dress up. It's really hot, though. So I'm going to get started. So why don't we do that? Pro Max Mini first day sales and call and response for you and me. It is Friday, the 6th of November, 2020, and this is macOS Ken Live. Friday is turning into costume day here on macOS Ken Live. Hi, everybody. Ken Ray, thanking you very much for joining me for this this live thing that we do every Monday through Friday. The week that never ends is finally coming to an end. I'm not really great about weekend stuff. I'm not really great about weekending. I fully intend to try to weekend today. I might try to cram 2 days of weekend into 1 day. We'll see what happens. First of all, though, let's see what we can do about doing a show in this next little bit of the end of this week. Coming up in the second half, I will tell you the story of buying my HomePod Mini because, yes, I did go ahead and decide to get one. And we'll also do a bit of listener feedback in the second half of the show. First half of the show, though, kind of want to go over some of what's going on with sales of the iPhone 12 Pro Max, iPhone 12 Pro Mini, and the HomePod Mini. Now, I don't know what's happening with sales of the iPhone, so that's going to be really short. I did my usual not scientific thing as far as going in and saying, okay, well, let's pretend I was going to buy one of these phones. Which of these phones would I buy? And then I ran through it. To be honest, I was a bit surprised at what I found. If I wanted a Pacific Blue iPhone 12 Pro Max, 128 gigabytes unlocked, I'd be waiting for about 3 weeks now. That would be delivered between the 24th and the 30th of November. So 3.5 weeks. And that's not overly surprising, honestly. What I found very surprising was if I wanted to buy a locked one with AT&T, and again, this is for the iPhone 12 Pro Max. If I wanted to buy a locked one with AT&T, I could still have it by next Friday. I checked that at about 1:30, 1:45 on the West Coast. So after, a decent amount of sales, what's that, 7? That's after 8.5 hours of sales because sales started at 5 a.m. on the West Coast, 8 a.m. on the East Coast. Yeah. iPhone Mini, actually, you can just grab one if you want unlocked. I didn't even bother checking with the carriers because I went in again and said, okay, I would want a 64 gigabyte unlocked blue iPhone 12 mini. And that one at the same time, you could just have by next week, not today, obviously. I'm kind of surprised that there's no wait right now on the mini. Now, there are a few different colors, and I could have tried different colors. I could have tried different carriers. Maybe the unlocked phone is actually harder to get. I assume, no, scratch that. I'm sorry. That was the unlocked phone. So I can't imagine it's harder to get through the carriers. Although we did hear a story earlier this week that Apple is holding back some of its inventory from the carriers, excuse me, because they want to make sure that they can actually accommodate what sales for people who come to an Apple store. Kind of weird that they're doing that, but they've always done that. It's especially weird that they're doing it this year because the carriers, of course, are leaning so hard on subsidies to sell more iPhones. I can't even begin to figure out what's going on with sales of those. Yeah, and partly because I'm just sitting here reading what everybody else is saying, so that does make it a tiny bit more difficult. I was talking to a friend of mine about why the Mini might not be why it's not moving off the shelf quite as fast, and her response was immediate. I need to hold it. I need to see that phone in my hand. Now, of course, the reviews just broke yesterday, I guess. The first hands-on just broke yesterday, and literally, if you're trying to see how big it is in somebody's hands, yesterday would have been the first time that you could. My friend does not live in the Apple News ecosystem in the same way that I do, so she hadn't seen those videos yet. Her thinking is she would need to hold that phone and know, because she knows that an iPhone 12 is gonna be about the same size as an iPhone XR, iPhone 11. It's gonna be right in there. That she gets. When you are talking about going to a smaller phone, that she feels like she would need to actually try out, which isn't gonna happen anytime soon. I mean, I guess maybe you could go to a Best Buy. I don't think you can just go to an Apple store. I guess you could do, like, the personalized shopping thing at an Apple store and say, "I want to leave with an iPhone 12. I don't know which one. I need to touch them all or touch some of them anyway and try them out," and maybe they would go ahead and accommodate that. It's not like last year, though, where you could walk in and, avoid eye contact with everybody and just, handle whatever device you were thinking about and see. HomePod Mini to me is a tiny bit more interesting because the iPhone story we've done. I mean, year after year after year, we've done the iPhone story. I know that there are variables this time that we haven't had, but the HomePod Mini is practically a new device for Apple. You might argue that it is a new device. Of course, they've had the HomePod, but the HomePod came in at 329, I think, when it started. I know the price has come down. I meant to check before we started. I apologize, I didn't. I know it's still like a couple $100 or more, though. HomePod Mini is in kind of a different place because, first of all, it is a different form factor, and second, it comes in at less than $100. Technically, less than $100. Although when I paid for mine with tax, it was 106 something. Tell you about that in a bit. There is a wait for some HomePod Minis. The question is, do you have taste? Sorry. The question is, are you okay with the white one or do you want the space gray? And if you're really offended because you really want the white one, I apologize. That was a joke. But the thing is, the space gray is hard to get no matter where you go, apparently, whereas the white one, you could walk away with a couple, maybe more. You can't walk away with more, but we'll talk about that too. Here in the States, this is according to a piece from Apple Insider. Here in the States, as of earlier today, you were looking at a 2 to 3 week wait for the HomePod, for the Space Gray. That has actually extended since then. When I checked again about 1:45, around there on the West Coast, a HomePod Space Gray, a HomePod Mini, excuse me, in Space Gray, you're looking at a ship time of December 1st to December 8th. So now that has pushed out in the US to about 4 weeks. If you're cool getting a white HomePod Mini, you can have it week after next. Because for some reason they're not shipping next week. Although fingers crossed, they're actually going to be early on that because I would really like to have it next weekend instead of the week after. Because I'm greedy. I paid my money. I would like to please have the thing that I'm not saying I'm going to be disappointed if it doesn't happen. I'm just saying I hope it will. Anyway, right now in the States, if you're willing to get a HomePod Mini that's in the white, you can have that delivered free the 18th to the 20th. You can have the speedy delivery the 17th to the 19th, which is not any more speedy. So don't be silly and don't do that. Further away, though, you were looking earlier today, so I wonder if these times have gotten longer, and I'm sorry I didn't check it out. 3 to 4 week wait for our space gray model, including the UK, Canada, and France. In Germany, you're looking at a 6 to 7 week wait, and that was earlier today. That was before the times that I was checking. So who knows how long at this point. Now, funny story, if you want the white one, you can have it. You can just order that and you can have it ASAP, and that's around the world, according to Apple Insider. Now, that may have changed because people found out that the space gray was hard to get. It's possible that people will go ahead and get that white one. I'm curious about, well, a number of things, and we have all of the variables that I've talked about on all the different iPhones as well. We don't know what lead times have been like for the HomePods. We don't know how production has been going. We don't know how many they have. I do know that the reason I went ahead and I got mine at whatever time this morning, 8:30 on the East Coast, 5:30 on the West Coast, the reason I went ahead and did that was because I was concerned that if I waited until this afternoon, that I would be waiting for a month, and I don't even wanna wait a week, so I didn't do that. Um, as far as why they're running out, yes, it's possible they just don't have that many of them. It's also possible that interested parties have been interested for a while and haven't been willing to go above 99 bucks. Maybe they haven't been interested in the couple hundred, or I mean, I think I told you the HomePod that I have, I basically waited until I read a story that said that Apple employees were getting them for 150 bucks. Then I called a friend of mine who's an Apple employee and said, "Can you help a friend out?" And they were able to. They cost more than that. And there may be a lot of people who have been interested, but not willing to go in sight unseen at $200 or more. And suddenly then $99 doesn't seem so bad. I've always been curious about that, but it's been too expensive. Oh, it's less than half. I know it's also smaller. I know it might sound different, but oh, it's less than half to try out that ecosystem. Yeah, okay, that'll go ahead and do. It's possible that that's the reason that they're seeing the uptick that they're seeing, assuming that they're seeing good uptick. The only thing we know is they don't have as many of the black ones as they do the white ones, or excuse me, the space gray as they do the white ones. So we don't actually know how sales are going, but we know that part. We know that part. At the same time, I was on a podcast, Chuck Joiner's Mac Voices, I think the night of the high speed event. There were a number of us on that. One of the people that was on that was Brittany Smith. And when the question went around, is anybody getting a HomePod Mini? She said yes. And somebody said, why? And she said, because it's $99. How often does Apple give you something, not give you, but give you something that's $99? I mean, that you can, not that it's not money, but it's not, I'm spending $500, I'm spending $1,000. So it's possible that some people are buying it just because, you know, $99 is impulse buy money, maybe for them. I don't know. The thing that will be interesting to find out is how long the longer waits are. Like if we ordered this time next week, is it possible that we'll not be looking at a 4-week or a 5-week wait? Because that's happened before where, initial orders seem to go on forever, and then all of a sudden, if you order them, they come down a bit. I know that when I ordered my first Apple Watch, the Series Zero, or just Apple Watch, I think they called it then. I was a couple of hours late on that order, and so it said that mine was going to be about 3 weeks after launch day, and then I got it on launch day. There's no telling what's going to happen as far as when the orders are actually going to come down a bit. I'll be curious to see that part. There is one thing that I do find interesting, and I said earlier you could have as many of the white HomePod minis as you want. It's actually not true. There was an article that I saw someplace, and I will find it again for Monday's Mac OS Ken. I just happened to glance at today. Might have been iMore, but I'm not 100% certain. You can only get two HomePod Mini right now. If you go to order them, at least in one order, I don't know whether Apple's system is smart enough or cagey enough that it would look at you with the same Apple ID coming back to buy two more after you already bought two. But if you try to pile up your shopping cart with HomePod Minis, you have to put them all back except for two of them, according to this article that I read. That would seem to be Apple trying to protect inventory, trying to make sure that there are plenty to go around. There's all this different stuff that we don't know, but I find it fascinating that the thing is hard to get because I don't remember whether HomePod was hard to get when it came out. But that's because I was one of the people that was like $320 for a speaker. Thanks, no. The pricing especially is just strange because you can get like what, four Echo devices or Google devices or something like that, or white label devices for way less than you can even get a HomePod Mini. And yet it comes off looking cheap because the other HomePod Plus, if you're an Apple fan, there you go. We're going to talk about me buying my HomePod in just a minute and why I paid $15 more than I had to. Really quickly, though, I want to remind you about some other shows that I do. Oh, there's macOS Ken. That's the daily thing. From whence this show is born, I suppose. So if you're just finding this on YouTube or you've somehow just found this audio podcast but don't know about that, Monday through Friday, try to be there early in the morning. It's been stretching till later in the morning lately. I'm not sure why that is, but yeah, Monday news, depending on how much Apple news there is. Stuff that's going to affect Apple's business, stuff that Apple is doing. Sometimes stuff that's just funny. YouTube just gave me a message that I was disconnected. I hope I wasn't. I'll continue. Right, so that's one, and then in a few minutes is a discussion show, me and a friend in tech, talking about stuff, different friends every week. And then there's the checklist brought to you by Secure Mac. In fact, we'll talk about the checklist here in just a minute because some of the feedback that I've got is tied to that. So there's all those things. Honestly, the easiest way to find it is to search for Ken Ray on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, I suppose, or wherever you get podcasts. But yeah, anyway, that's that stuff. And people are telling me, by the way, in the chat room that it did pause, but it's okay because it was just the part where I was telling you about other stuff I do, and who needs that in their coffee? Right, let's do feedback really quickly. So I actually, well, no, not feedback. Let's first do my buying experience for the HomePod Mini. So you may remember a few weeks ago, I had a problem getting a watch band from Apple. And I think it was actually a Friday episode of this show where I said, I am a happy customer because they acknowledged the fact that there had been a problem with my watch band thing and they gave me a discount. I think it was $15 for a $100 device or a purchase from Apple, excluding iTunes gift cards and Apple Care and things like that. $25 off for a $200 device or purchase, and then $45 off for $300 or more purchase, right? So I thought, great, I'll put that towards the HomePod that I'm going to buy. I was a little concerned about whether or not the $99 versus the $100 means I wouldn't get the $15, but whatever. So about 3 minutes before the orders are supposed to start, because that's how late I was up doing macOS Ken today, about 3 minutes before that was supposed to start, dug around in my email, found the discount code, and then read the fine print on the thing that said, to use this discount code, you have to call Apple. Okay. So I got on the phone to call Apple, and needless to say, and nobody was answering the phone because they were answering too many calls from too many other people. Probably not just trying to get the 15, bucks off or whatever. I am curious why they gave me a code that can't be used online, where so much of what Apple is doing is saying, go online and do this, and, go online. And did you know you can get your answers offline and you can buy stuff online? Why they then gave me a discount code that has to, involve a person is kind of weird. But for the same thing that I was talking about earlier, like I could have waited till this afternoon to call, but then who knows when I would have gotten the HomePod. I'm sitting there on hold with absolutely no indication of how long it's going to be. And, I'm thinking every time I hit refresh, it's going to say, now it's 2 weeks, now it's 3 weeks. So I spent the $15, which means if I scrape together enough money for an Apple Watch Series 6, not scrape together, but if I finally decide to get one, I can get $45 off that because I held on to the $15 for this. So it's funny, actually. I was watching a lot of friends on Twitter get really upset because it was like 6 past 5 before you could order, or 6 past 8. All right, I get it. That's fine. It was a little annoying, but people by the millions are clicking. If it takes them, an extra 5 or 6 minutes to get things going, if we stretch into an hour and that's happening, or even a half hour, or even 10 minutes, give it 10 minutes though, because millions of people are hitting refresh just the way you are. It's like a dedicated denial of service attack, but accidentally. Whatever, it's fine. Everybody was upset for exactly how many minutes it took, which I think was exactly 6. And now everybody's ordered their stuff and they're happy. In fact, when I ordered my HomePod Mini, I put a picture of it up on Twitter and got 2 responses. One, Street Report Pod wrote to me and said, apparently, dinging me for having a device that's going to be listening. That's fine. Wrote to me and said, I know a cop that you could just hire to follow you around your house instead. To which I replied, sure, but can he sing? See, I'm getting something out of the deal. And, Street Report Pod did acknowledge that no, the guy has a terrible voice. And also, he doesn't like answering questions or taking orders. So, really, my surveillance mechanism is better. Reb Zeppelin also wrote to me, commenting on my choosing the space gray over the white. Well, I joked earlier that I have taste, but the real problem is I tend to spill, and also it's past Labor Day. You can't, you can't, after one more bit of feedback, and then I'm going to go over to the chat room and talk to everybody in the chat room. Hank wrote to me. Right. So I said that the checklist by Secure Mac was going to come up again. That's a security show that I do for the good people at Secure Mac. They've been doing what they do for about 20 years. I've been doing what I do with them for about 4, but I've known them for, golly, I think like 12 years now, 13 maybe, 14. I think I was still living in Oakland. Whatever. Yeah, let's go down my memory lane while you sit there and go get to the point. We talked here, I believe, last week about the Financial Times article that had Apple doing a whole bunch of hiring in search. And the Financial Times seems to think that what's going to happen is Apple is going to open its own search engine. And sure, okay, maybe Apple's going to open its own search engine. Even though everybody Apple has hired to this point, that might do that kind of thing, what they have said is we're trying to improve Siri. So I was kind of surprised to find one of the guys from the checklist, a guy named Nick Leone, who actually writes for, a guy from Secure Mac who actually writes for Secure Mac, suggested it as a topic because it didn't seem to me like it was a real security security issue, obviously. But he was doing the emphasis on privacy because, of course, Apple's, stated stance on privacy. He thinks that would be a better search engine than what Google has because it wouldn't be storing your information. It wouldn't be selling your information. It would just be, providing the search that you want. He thinks that would be a great thing. You go to applesearch.com or whatever and you search for your thing. And I personally don't see it happening, don't see the need for it. I think it would be, I think it is for Siri. Now, there's no reason it can't be both things. Here's what Hank wrote to me. You raised the possibility that Apple Search was just for Siri, or that Siri is where it's needed most. I disagree. I use Siri hardly at all. I'd rather type than dictate. I use Siri on occasion from my Apple Watch, but rarely from my phone and never from my Mac. Apple Search is something I would use happily from Siri. I use and like DuckDuckGo, but would look for advantages from an Apple solution, assuming any materialize. Here are the things that I find myself wondering. There are a few. First of all, Hank. So true story, had an ex who, she wasn't my ex at the time, but she would call me from her iPhone to my iPhone to ask me to look something up on Google. Now, what I would do then was take my phone away from my face, same phone that she had, and type in the question on Google, and then get back on the phone and answer her. So she wasn't even the person who would type the thing in. She was the person who would call out and say, hey, can you tell me, right? So for her, the Siri thing might be great. Point is, somewhere along the way, you stopped being the person who went to an encyclopedia or a dictionary or, called out to your friend, started typing to, Google, DuckDuckGo, Hotbot, Bing, Jeeves, Excite. That's all the ones I can think of. Alta Vista. Okay, that's all the ones I can think of right now, or at least all the ones I can, try to. Somewhere along the way, you picked up the habit of typing in there, right? I have a friend who has kids who just, one kid in particular, the youngest, 9, 10, automatically thinks to ask Siri whatever, because that's how she grew up. That's what search is for her, right? I don't know that Siri is where this is needed more than a search engine. I do find myself wondering, does Apple want the headache of having to deal with, you searching for that thing? Because then Apple is opened up to all the stuff that we talked about on that episode of the checklist. Because one of the things that's happening on the episode of the checklist are all the different law enforcement agencies that are coming to Google and overusing warrants, trying to get lots of information about lots of people in a given space. There have actually been federal judges who have said that Google is being asked for too much information. And the thing is, Google is going to give the information if law enforcement comes and says we need this. As long as they have all the T's dotted and the I's crossed, they're going to give the information for which people are asking. Does Apple want that headache? You can say, well, then Apple could just anonymize it. But we all know that Google can collect that information. We all know that Bing can collect that information. We all know that DuckDuckGo doesn't. And so I guess it is within Apple's purview to provide those searches without collecting that information. But that's just asking for Congress to say, why aren't you giving us information on the investigations that we need, or the DOJ or the FBI or whomever? The other thing I wonder is, does Apple want a perceived failure? The first time Apple launches its search engine for the whole world to see, that's just TechCrunch and the Next Web and Engadget and everybody else going to search for the same things and showing more relevant searches on Google than you're going to get on Apple's thing. Because Google has been collecting information on people for so long, it's able to do that more easily, more quickly. See also Apple Maps. Apple Maps was not as good as Google Maps when it came out. It took Apple Maps a while to get as good as Google Maps. But for 2 or 3 years, all you heard was how much Apple Maps sucks, which would be a possible PR issue for them as well. Honestly, though, the emphasis on machine learning is the emphasis on the future. I'm going to have a HomePod in 2 rooms in the house now. Both of those are going to be tied up to Siri, right? I've got Apple TV, which theoretically, I guess, has Siri, although I never try it for that. The iPad that's sitting right in front of me, and the Mac that I'm talking to you on does have that right now. And if it makes it, I think what they want is not so you never go to Google anymore. And I don't think it has anything to do with protecting the money that Google is paying or making up for the money they're going to lose if the DOJ separates the two. I think what Apple wants is stuff that just works. And just works is not me sitting down at a keyboard, typing in a bunch of things, trying to figure out the exact way to type in the information to get the exact information that I want. I think what it wants is machine learning so that it sort of starts to understand me personally and what I want personally. And then when I ask it a question, rather than it saying, here's what I found on the web, saying, yeah, the answer you're looking for is Joe Friday. Joe Friday because Jack Webb, because I said web. That was the only reason I could think of. I was trying to think of something obscure there. None of that stops Apple from doing an actual search engine. And maybe they will. I don't know. The thing is, the way Google makes all of their money in search is through, selling information and ads, right? And sure, Apple actually does have promoted search in like the App Store and things like that. So they could start making money that way as well. I don't know. I mean, sure, I got no problem with that at all. But if we found out that they weren't going to make a search engine that everybody could go to, that it's only for Siri, not only would I have no problem with that, I think I might have a bit more respect for it. Because then it makes Siri, instead of being me typing, it makes Siri, the assistant that Apple seems to want Siri to be. I wish I could find my pocket watch because I would love to be able to reach into this pocket that people listening to the audio podcast can't see, but people watching, Anyway, the clock on the wrist and the iPad and the phone and the computer tells me it's time to mosey. If you're in the chat room, please stay in the chat room. I will be by momentarily. If you're not in the chat room, I sure wish you were because, I have fun doing this show. And then there are all these people in the chat room who are over there having their own fun. And then after the show, we get together and we all have fun. So 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, other times, other places. Ask the guy sitting next to you or gal sitting next to you, and they'll tell you. That is Monday through Friday, which means we'll be back here doing this next week. Of course, next week we also get back into, in a few minutes, we get back into macOS Ken. Just all kinds of fun stuff. Please have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk soon. Huh. So I didn't record that. Yay. It's okay, because I can record it again from what we just did. Except, of course, it's going to have that pause in the middle. Boo. Hey, everybody. I forgot to record that. I haven't done that in weeks. It's fine. Nothing's going to dampen my spirit today because I'm dressed like a train conductor from the future. Let me grab my glasses and see what people say here. Alexa is ahead on machine learning, but Siri is catching up. Wait, I'm starting at the end. That's Randy, but I'm starting at the end. Who's here? Well, there's a bunch of people making fun of my fancy threads, not making fun. Oh, thank you. Donna says, remember to hit like. Thank you very much. Web Bixby's did you get the blue web? I'll find out your answer in about 25 minutes when I get down to the end of the stuff here. Canada store is still showing the 12 mini as pre-order. I'm not sure what that means because they're showing it as pre-order here as well. Oh, available for November 13th. Okay. Yeah, right. Do you think it's because people just need to hold it and see how it is? Nice. Wow, John went high end. Got the iPhone 12 Pro Max Pacific Blue 256 gigabyte arriving on Friday the 13th. $299 for the HomePod. Is that $299 for the HomePod now or $299? Is it really? Man. I did think it was funny. I did think it was funny that Apple will only give you two because they keep talking about the fact for the HomePod Mini because they keep talking about the fact that you could have them everywhere. Eventually. No, Nate, you did not miss a memo. Well, I don't know if you missed a memo. You didn't miss one about dressing up, though. What else we got? John's telling me there was that glitch. Hey, great. So we're going to have that glitch in the audio recording. That's good. Yeah, that's really surprising, Richard. Richard says needing to call Apple for that discount seems similar to needing to go into a store in the UK for the iPhone upgrade program. That's really fairly surprising. I mean, I understand they need to physically check the device, but okay, so give me a 10-minute appointment where you can do that and give me my new phone. I mean, unless they're just really trying to discourage people. I'm really confused by what's going on with the stores in the UK. We talked about this yesterday. Nate wrote in day before yesterday and talked about the fact he refers to what's going on in the UK as a mockdown, not a lockdown, because they're still sending kids to school, which means you're still sending teachers to school, which means you're not stopping the spread. You might be slowing it a bit because people aren't going to pubs and they aren't going to stores. But if Apple is going to have a click and pick up thing, I mean, I guess the difference is I'm not handing my phone that's been on my face to someone else to check out, right? If I'm ordering something and going to the store, they are maybe through a plexiglass window handing me something that's in a bag, that's in plastic, that's in a box, that's in other wrapping, that's finally the device. Nobody's touched that since it was in China or India, wherever the phones are produced. I think they're all coming from China still as far as being sold outside of India. I don't even know if, so that's weird. And yes, having to call is weird as well, unless it's just, having to call is a pain. I honestly forgot. It was only about 15 minutes before I was going to order the HomePod that I remembered, oh yeah, I've got that $15 coupon. So that was the other reason I was kind of willing to go ahead and order it, because until I remembered I had that, I was already paying $99 in my head. And it really would have annoyed the heck out of me if I had sat there to talk to somebody for that $15 and they said, okay, December 1st. Then there are funny things that happen in the chat room that I have no idea what that means. Smoke Eater said Bigfoot. I don't know why. Bill has 3 Google Minis, all new and in box. Why is that? Yahoo. How did I leave out Yahoo, Laura? You're right. I'm naming all the obscure ones. And Laura's all like, Yahoo. Oh, that's right. Mac Interactive talked about a way that you can do Google with no tracking. Where else are we? Hank says regarding Apple Search, maybe the value is an unstructured query, whether voice or typing. That would be kind of cool. I'm not 100% certain what you mean, but if you want to send me an email and say a bit more about that, Hank, I'd appreciate it. Because I'm fine having this conversation continue both here online and elsewhere. Thanks, Mark. You can't get the HomePod in New Zealand. Okay, on the upside, though, you got like one person a month with COVID-19. You're doing better. Sorry. Why can't you get the HomePod in New Zealand? Do you know? Or is it just like, no, you just can't? Have they said? Frungy? There is no Clips reference. It's just a thing I did. I mean, it was honestly based on something that I saw Colbert do. It was around the time that the 2016 presidential race was kicking off, and Jeb Bush had done his name is it was Jeb, Jeb, with an exclamation point. And so for one night and one night only, every time Colbert talked about Jeb Bush, he would go Jeb, and then he would pause. And I don't know why, but the Clips I think came out like a week or two later, and I thought it was funny. And you know me, if something's funny once, I'll run it straight into the ground for years. Body ah. All right. So there. I was never going to tell anybody that, but you're here and you asked. So listen, I got to run because I now have to actually play this show back so that I can record it so I can put it out as a podcast. Yeah. If you want to know, by the way, somebody asked about why I'm dressed like this. Go back to the beginning. I'll tell you. I want to be the conductor on the monorail at Disneyland. Yeah. Dressing the part. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And thank you for hitting like, and thank you for telling people about it. You guys are just can't download the file until they finish processing the file, and they don't process the file until forever for some reason. It's a good call, but honestly, it'll take less time to just play it back and walk away. I don't have to sit here for all of it anyway, because I just sat here for it. I also want to do that, and I never did. I've been a few times and I never did. I'll tell you what I really want to do though. Assuming we ever get to go back to Disneyland, that you can actually sit. Apparently, there is a place on the train where you can sit, not in the engine, but right behind the engine, like where the coal tender would be, if it were, an actual coal-powered train. Apparently, you can do that. What I really want to do though is ride in the Lily Bell. I don't know if you know what that is. I think you do. If you don't, well, that's something to look up then. Ask Siri. Ask Siri what the Lily Bell is in Disneyland, and maybe they'll tell you. If they say it was Walt's wife, that's only part of the story. Can I record while streaming? Yeah, but I forgot to hit record. That's the problem. Okay, right. Got to get out of here. All of you, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for being here. I can't tell you how much it means. Right. Take care.